right, let's see how we're doing with the amplification. Can y'all hear me okay? All right then. All right, welcome to the 2024 Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate Final Ceremony. All right then. All right, welcome to the 2024 Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate Final Ceremony. Before we get started, I want to make sure that I remind you, please turn off all of your noise-making telephonic devices. And also remember there's going to be a little bit of movement back and forth, so there will be an intermission this evening, so make sure you're aware of that. It'll happen in the middle of our speeches from our finalists. All right, first I'm going to bring up, my name is Sadika Poindexter. I am thrilled to be one of your MCs for the evening. Let me bring up my co-host, the fantastic Noni Williams.
Let me tell you a little bit about my fantastic co-host, Zadika. Zadika is co-executive director of the Nebraska Writers Collective. A North Omaha-born writer and performer, Zadika holds a bachelor's degree in communication from the University of Nebraska at Omaha, my alma mater as well. In her work, Zadika has built a historical record through poems and essays that draw on all five senses to connect with readers and listeners. By sharing stories of people in her community, she creates a relationship with her audience and guides them through the world as she sees and experiences it.
Thank you, Noni. Noni Williams is a poet, storyteller, and mathematician, and a data professional with a background in nonprofit data analysis in Omaha, Nebraska. From 2022 to 2023, Noni served as a civic mentor for the Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate, Tanya Bashu. Noni finds purpose in using mathematical concepts to explore the perceived world around her and fostering the joy of that exploration in others. She believes that everyone can be a math person, even you. She is amazing. Please give a hand clap for Noni Williams.
As you can tell, Zadika and I are different heights, and I don't want to make you move the microphone, so I'm just going to lean over. So this is a very natural pose, everybody. Our Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate Finals ceremony is a celebration, an ode, an opportunity to shine a spotlight on the five finalists vying for this title. We'll hear commentary from two of our contest judges and receive the gift of Aaliyah American Horse's final performance as the current Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate before she passes the mic on to one of our finalists. The Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate Program is a shared initiative between Urban Word New York City and the Nebraska Writers Collective. This is a national network that begins for us at the state level and produces poets like our 2021 inaugural poet, Amanda Gorman. The winner of the Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate position will have the opportunity to apply for the regional and national competitions. For those who may not know, Aaliyah American Horse was recently appointed Midwest Youth Poet Laureate and we'll learn if she is the National Youth Poet Laureate in Washington, D.C. later this month. We manifest this every year by saying, it is possible the next inaugural poet is in this room tonight.
In addition to just being a title, Nebraska's Youth Poet Laureate will win $1,000, at least 6 public readings and performances across the state, and up to $2,000 for a civic engagement program of their design. Additionally, we will match the Youth Poet Laureate with a creative and civic mentor so that they can build their leadership networks and receive year-long guidance from experts in their field. We are proud to partner with Civic Nebraska, a nonprofit that believes in building a more modern and robust democracy for all Nebraskans. Civic Nebraska has generously agreed to provide a civic mentor for our newly appointed Youth Poet Laureate. We're grateful for the ways they continue to champion the intersection of youth leadership, and the arts in our state. As Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate, it is not enough to be a good poet. We are searching for young leaders who aren't simply capable of imagining a better world, but are determined enough to collaborate, creatively problem solve, and build a better world. Each year, the competition deepens as more young people learn about this program and sharpen their pencils before applying. Our 8 judges were tasked with ranking the applications and selecting the 5 finalists who they consider to be excellent poets and exceptional human beings. I'd like to welcome two of these judges to the stage so that you can hear more about their experience as readers of the incredible poetry portfolios they received this year.
Before I invite up this first judge, I would like to say a few words about them. Born Arthur Clayton McWilliams IV, Artie Mack is an artist and aspiring storyteller in Lincoln, Nebraska. In 2013, he graduated from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln with a degree in English literature, having minored in art and ethnic studies. Amassing over 40,000 followers on his TikTok channel after profiling Black deaf educator Andrew Foster, Mack uses his social media to push conversations about monoculture, disability justice, and deaf and hard of hearing experiences. These conversations fueled Mack's inspiration behind his imaginary, hand-drawn comic book covers as he explored the potentials of Black deaf fantasy, and he debuted these book covers during his third art exhibition, Viz, capital V, capital I, capital S, in case any of you want to look that up, at the Lux Center for the Arts in February of 2023. From interacting with the local Girl Scouts to selling out of baked goods at the Made Here Market in the South Everett neighborhoods of Lincoln, Mack uses his various platforms to spread deaf awareness by sharing his lived experiences and promoting sign language visibility through his t-shirts, Learn ASL for Someone You Love. Let's welcome up Artie Mack.
Thank you. Actually, you know what? It's fine. I'll just. Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here tonight with all of you in Omaha for the 4th annual Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate. Pleasure to be here tonight. To all the young people who submitted their work this year, it takes courage and vulnerability to open yourself up and reveal your inner poet to the world. This whole event wouldn't have been possible without you. It's your words that give this program life and everyone who reads them an opportunity to feel, grow, and to learn something new. We appreciate you and we see you. I'd like to thank the Nebraska Writers Collective for hosting this commencement ceremony, and I'd like to acknowledge everyone participating here tonight to create this beautiful atmosphere. Thank you. My ideas of the state of Nebraska are always changing. The truth is, I don't feel like I can say I have a full picture because I haven't really been anywhere aside from a few cities. Fulfilling the Nebraska passport is on my bucket list of things to do before I die because I should know my own state, right? Growing up, my peers always complained that there was nothing here, and yes, I used to be one of them. As you can see, I'm 34 years old and I'm still here. I've lived in Lincoln my whole life, and I've grown to become annoyed at media portrayals of Nebraska as just one giant field of corn. We all know that there's more here than just corn, right? There's also soybeans and football. I'm joking. There's a lot in Nebraska, Black people included. No, but for real, we've got wildlife, we have prairies, there's art, entertainment, museums, botanical gardens, history and culture everywhere. Festivals in small towns, steaks, and poetry. Perhaps the most important thing of all. Obviously, that's why we're here tonight, right? I think that having the Youth Poet Laureate program challenges ideas about our state and even presents opportunities to challenge the state itself, especially when it comes to breaking outdated cultural norms and stereotypes and confronting things like discriminatory legislature through the young people who are writing about them. Poetry doesn't have an ideal form. It's a blank canvas upon which we can do absolutely anything. I saw that reflected in this year's collection. It's like walking into an art gallery with a bunch of different artists using a range of mediums. That's what I loved about reading everyone's essays and poems. It was a different experience with each portfolio that made me sit and think about the world through another person. I'm proud of everyone for opening themselves up. I accepted the role as one of the judges for this year's Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate because I wanted to read what young people today have to say. I wanted to comprehend your day-to-day lives and to get your take on the world and how you feel existing in it. Too often, the voices of those who are young and or marginalized are dismissed, despite being members of the global majority. How can such a large planet with billions of people have so many demographics that are silent or ignored? At times, it can feel like none of us are living in the same world. I felt this way a lot growing up as I was realizing how different I was from my peers. I didn't expect this experience as a judge to reconnect me so much to my younger self when I was in junior high and high school and discovering the power of writing, how you can create alternate realities, get ideas across to other people, or provoke an emotional response. I loved English and being in creative writing classes. I remember how often I used to write poems, stories, and draw in and on my notebooks all the way up through college. If I had a pencil in my hand, my thoughts were going to come out one way or another, even on the notepaper margins while I was taking notes in class. I felt safe and expressive with words and ways that my voice didn't allow because of my deaf accent. People have one impression of me listening to how I speak versus reading what I write. I can sound like anybody on paper. I can't sound like anybody other than myself in person. I remember a kid in my social studies class in sophomore or junior year of high school who at the end of the semester asked why I never said anything out loud. I struggled a lot with the sound of my own voice because I can't hear what others hear. I shied away from reading poetry out loud because it meant people would hear my voice. They would comment on or have difficulty understanding what I'm saying. They'd ask where I'm from, although I've lived in Nebraska my entire life, or become flustered because their child just asked out loud, why did he talk like that? It's difficult to speak and use a language you don't fully hear, just as it's difficult to move to a new country and learn a new language altogether. As some of you have written about your experiences with language and being multilingual, it got me thinking deeper about societal barriers and how often poetry breaks and moves over those barriers. We can even defy the rules of grammar for the ease of direct communication or something abstract. I was impacted by one young person in this youth program who wrote about wanting to bring slam poetry to the deaf community and to become more immersed in American Sign Language. Over time, I've explored ways to represent my deaf and hard of hearing experience through my artwork and advocacy. I'm not sure when or why I stopped writing poetry, but I discovered newfound hope to see more deaf and hard of hearing people absorbed into the world of poetry and performance. Knowing how beautiful and visual ASL is, I know there's a place for all of us. I've started to write again, and lately all the words just keep pouring out. If I had access to a program like this when I was younger, a young person like 20 years ago, I'll be honest, I would have thought of reasons to say no. I had access to a program like the first being, what's a hard of hearing or a deaf guy like me doing in spaces where you have to hear like everybody else? They're all going to be using their voices. How does someone like me with an accent fit into those spaces? Poets are supposed to have beautiful voices. And if they have an accent, it's supposed to be exotic and mysterious, not deaf. However, it would have been an amazing opportunity. I can't imagine the empowerment of brainstorming ways to help my community. I would have loved to have sung off some of my best poems, hoping to eventually stand on stage to infuse sign language with the spoken voice, or to jump back and forth just because I can, because that's my reality, and no one can tell me otherwise. Nebraska was late to recognize ASL as an official language only within the last few years, but I've been bilingual most of my life, and it has given me a unique perspective that no one can take away from me. Sometime during college, I went to an open mic poetry reading at a local coffee house in my hometown. I don't remember much about that experience, but I recall two guys about my age performing slam poetry together and then signing at the end. One of them were hearing aged. I wanted to talk to him, but I had no idea what to say. I didn't really have any deaf or hard of hearing friends at that point, and I spoke more with my mouth than I did with my hands. I didn't know how to approach him because I still didn't know how I wanted anyone to approach me. But that day when the room got quiet and everyone looked and listened with their eyes instead of their ears, I realized that there is room for all of us in that room and on this planet. Poetry reconnects us back to our humanity. It makes human experiences relatable even if we are from different backgrounds. What I saw in everyone's portfolio this year is that all of you have the desire to connect and to make life easier for those around you. You want to bridge the gaps in communication and connectivity. I read about it in your essays. I applaud you for that and ask that you hold on to that desire because the world needs people who care. Your ideas are exciting, and I wish I was a philanthropist. I hope to see each finalist stay motivated and making a difference in their communities, and that you all continue to give your thoughts and feelings poetic shapes. I say to tonight's finalists, congratulations to every one of you. Thank you for what you do for the community and taking the time to share your art with us. You are valued and you are loved. It is a joy to be here among poetry lovers. To everyone, let's have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Artie. I have the pleasure of introducing the second judge who will be speaking tonight, Rachel Olson. Rachel Olson joined the Willa Cather Foundation as a tour guide in October 2017 and has since worked a variety of educational roles before becoming the Director of Education and Engagement in 2022. A former college English teacher, she enjoys developing activities and content designed to preserve Cather's rich literary history. In addition to supervising a team of programming and visitor services staff, Rachel organizes the Teacher Institute and Author Series program, oversees the Opera House seasons of events, plans conferences and seminars, and fosters relationships with educators from area schools, colleges, and universities. Rachel has a master's degree in English from Kansas State University with a certificate in women's studies and was a full-time faculty member and writing center director at Oklahoma City Community College before moving to Red Cloud. When she is not getting to know visitors or working on educator resources, Rachel enjoys community volunteer work. Rachel loves cooking and going to movies, but she is happiest spending time with her husband and her daughter. Please give it up for Rachel Olson.
I'm going to see if I can tame this microphone. Maybe not. There we go. Good evening, and thank you so much for having me here tonight. I'm grateful for this opportunity to celebrate young and emerging writers. I'm also grateful I'm not the only speaker who is going to mention corn tonight. My name is Rachel Olson, and as Zadika said, I'm the Director of Education and Engagement at the National Willa Cather Center in Red Cloud, a town of 962 people situated near never-been-plowed Nebraska prairie, about 60 miles away from the interstate. Our tiny, understated portion of the Great Plains was once home to the author Willa Cather, a woman whose books, despite their humble origins, still ignite readers' imaginations and inspire thoughtful debate. Cather's rendering of our town and its inhabitants put Red Cloud on the map for many individuals who otherwise would have no idea that we exist just beyond the little blue stem swaying north of the Republican River. But if I may be so bold, tonight I'd prefer not to talk about Willa Cather. Don't get me wrong, I hope everyone in this room reads My Antonia or A Lost Lady at some point in their lives. I hope everyone in this room visits Red Cloud and inhales the metallic tang of old money, lacquered wood, and brick dust at the Farmers and Merchants Bank. I hope everyone in this room squeals with glee while watching a sensitive briar close to the touch on the Willa Cather Memorial Prairie. But tonight I want to talk about the bold, heartening, and inventive poetry written by this year's Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate finalists, and I want to talk about why this role is so special. At a time when art and literature are undervalued and artists are unsung, reading poetry written by civically engaged youth feels invigorating. I don't know about you all, but most any kind of reading makes me feel like my unbridled self. This year's finalists clearly committed themselves to the page and to their craft. As I made my way through each writer's portfolio, I was excited by the variety of poetic forms represented. Some poems looked deceptively like prose, others written with the precision of a Shakespearean sonnet. Some of the writers honored tonight demonstrated a level of vulnerability that was unflinching, and Sylvia Plath has nothing on you. Others stirred my curiosity by offering more questions than answers, as if, like Wallace Stevens, they were asking readers to simply ponder multiple possibilities. Like Ada Limon, many poets wrangled with issues that loom much larger than what can be encapsulated by one life or one experience, such as gun violence or queer identity. Every writer expressed a deep sense of care and commitment to their communities, however they chose to define them. With every writing portfolio, each finalist seemed to echo Audre Lorde's famous declaration, "Poetry is not a luxury." As a resident of Nebraska, and rural Nebraska at that, I find myself turning more and more to writing as a way to soothe my worries about our future. I live in a place where a majority of students qualify for free and reduced lunches, a place that can be dotted with houses that look as battered as a cornfield, there's the corn, after a hailstorm, a place that can be suspicious of art's inherent value. But I also live in a place that attracts theater and music, a place that draws people from all over the world who love books, a place where there are many people devoted to making a better place. Most of the comfort I find in considering Nebraska's future is rooted in human creativity and generosity. Having the Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate represent me and other Nebraskans summons the state's creative energy in the name of positive change and growth. The Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate, for me, is a beacon for all of us who are certain that poetry should be supported and protected, that poets make Nebraska a better place. As a child living in Spokane, Washington, I delighted in writing and illustrating stories and poems for the local Young Authors Conference that took place at the Convention Center each year. If you went through my attic boxes, you would find my third grade accordion book that includes a story about me moving to Burbank, California. I loved game shows. And you would also find my fourth grade collection of poetry, which was spiral bound and mounted on lavender construction paper. You might also find old composition books with poems I wrote and never shared with anyone as an admittedly sullen teenager living in Springfield, Missouri. The invitation to serve as a judge for this year's Youth Poet Laureate competition has made me wonder what it would have been like to know that there were other teenagers filling up notebooks or laptops or notes apps with poems or parts of poems that they might feel scared to share, or to know that there were arts organizations and programs that wanted to support young writers. I didn't have a young author role model from my state or community growing up, and it is the absence of that sort of encouragement that drives my interest in contributing to programs that foster young creativity or uplift people as artists so that they may set an example for their peers. If you went through my attic boxes, you would also find my daughter's notebooks full of drawings and partially completed vignettes about animals or her best friends. She will benefit from discovering young role models like all of tonight's finalists. And if I may circle back to Audre Lorde, she also says, "It is through poetry that we give name to those ideas which are, until the poem, nameless and formless, about to be birthed, but already felt. To fulfill even a small role in the Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate program allows me to give form to an already felt desire to make more space for young writers and to help amplify their talents." What I hope the 2024 Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate finalists take away from tonight is that they are seen and heard unconditionally, that Nebraska and Nebraskans hold a place for you. Those of you who leave tonight without the title have still unleashed your poetry. You have still connected the words that you feel compelled to write to a larger purpose. You have still connected with people. Is there a better argument for poetry's relevance than celebrating the way you all have harnessed grief, joy, uncertainty, alienation, love, and transformation into a pledge to serve your families, friends, and neighbors? I don't think so. You have all brought poetry to life, and like the authors who came before you, you have ignited imaginations and put Nebraska on the map for readers who are drawn to poetry, and maybe even have some of their own tucked away in their attics. So thank you, and congratulations to all of tonight's finalists.
All right, I got to check the time before we have some Star Wars action out here. All right. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to let you go with it. I didn't know what you wanted to do. All right. We would like to begin with introducing you to your Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate finalists. We are going to do two and then take a little break. So I am going to begin with, yes. I'm honored to introduce your 2024-25 Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate finalists. Each year, we ask our finalists to write and submit their own bios so that you could hear what's important to them in their own words. So I'm going to begin with Jules Weistewald. Jules, thank you so much for being here. I've been stressing about pronouncing your name properly because it matters. Just a second, sorry, I'll read your bio. From Omaha, Nebraska, Jules Weistewald is an aspiring poet with the hopes of inspiring many. Weistewald's pieces are derived from personal experience regarding his experience as a transgender man, diving into the dynamics of emotion and processing the world from various perspectives. Weistewald's passion stems from initially discovering ways to express what initially seemed undefinable, not to mention his devout support and empowerment towards communities that are disparaged and discriminated against by society, with primary focus on the LGBTQ community, which led to the mantra, "Disturb the silence," believing that the unheard, the misunderstood, and the mistreated deserve a voice. Please come up, Jules.
I didn't realize they were reading my bio. Hello, my name is Jules, and I am so happy to be here tonight. I have a couple pieces to share with you. This is my first poem. The song that plays when I think of you. Together Alone, that's the title of it. A melancholic oxymoron oozing double meanings and poetic irony. It's also completely instrumental. A perfect song to meld with messy minds, too complicated for lyrics to be sung over them. The music is simply the score to your thoughts. If we were a duo in some cinematic movie, whenever we walk on screen, this would play. Our theme, this song, I've always felt was just for us. I know because whether it was the first time I heard it or as I'm listening to it now, all I can think about is him, us, together, alone. Most of it is this somber yet comfortable guitar accompanied by a drum beat no faster than a stroll home from school, together. He never let me walk home alone. The foreboding synth that makes it all echo, does it echo because my AirPods are on or because we're sitting in my acoustic basement on my futon? Maybe it's time I address the oxymoron. You're not alone if you're together with someone. Except when he is. Sitting less than a foot to the left, I know sometimes we're miles away. Maybe it's not just physical or mental closeness. We've been together as long as I can remember. As of now, he is the one person in my life who knows all of me. Everyone else first met him, yet he befriended her over 8 years ago. And he's still sitting next to him, next to me. We sit together. Without him in my life, I know I'd feel alone. We sat together in adjacent desks in 6th grade where we first met. We sat together in the library, even if we stayed silent. We sat together, albeit a few rows apart, when we graduated. We'll sit together in the future, whenever he needs me right there to hold his hand. We'll sit together at sad funerals or loud parties held by friends. We'll sit together the day he gets married, because hopefully I'll be his best man. I'll swallow my envy when I smile at his wife and make sure to raise my glass in congrats, because we'll still be sitting together, but she'll be the one sitting with him, and I'll be the one alone. Currently, we sit together watching anime. We sit together talking about whatever. We sit together comforting each other. We sit together with his arms around me, resting his chin on my head. He tells me my body feels warm, and sometimes I feel his breath, but we don't lay together anymore. It wouldn't be fair to you, because you and someone else are together, and I'm the one alone. There's a part towards the end of the song where the guitar strains and the drum beat punches you deep, as if the track lets out one final scream, and then a minute later it softens and the notes lengthen to a final breath. Truth is, I keep it on loop so it feels like it doesn't end, only pausing it sometimes. Maybe it's because I'm afraid of us ending, afraid of a life where we aren't together at all. I wonder if I should send you this poem, or maybe just the song. If I sent it to you, would you play it and think of me too? If it does, I'd ask you to play it while you're sitting alone. Does it also make you feel like we're together across 2 different pairs of headphones? Though I have never been your love, you have always been my muse. I want you to know I'm fine if the days of us being alone together are gone, just as long as we can still be together alone. Thank you. My next piece is Battleground. Dear soldiers of the culture war, trans man here is what seems to start every line of poetry as I step onto the front lines. Blades of grass swing as we stand praying for no new bloodshed. I'm a man, simple as that. I shouldn't need carefully worded explanations of ever-shifting terms that are already hotly debated. Courtesy shouldn't be lost for the sake of correctness. Imagine me, just trying to live my life, I come across all this hatred, just because I'm a self-made man. Contrary to popular belief, testosterone/hormone supplements do not stop you from getting pregnant. They have the chance to decrease fertility, but so does tobacco, alcohol, and poor diet, and I can buy cigarettes, Fireball, and Oreos in a gas station. So to me, it's not about protection, it's just about prevention. I used to tolerate ignorance, intellectually stand up for myself against blatant intolerance. I really believed that if I explained, people would side with common sense and logic. The scoffs were heard loud and clear. People die on the hill of unrequited political loyalty instead of thinking. Anger, poetry, and testimony, the only people listening are the people who agree with me. It's interesting. Bigots never view themselves as bigots. They're always defending something. Defending children's innocence, defending the traditional family, defending women in sports. I guess it makes them feel all heroic and righteous. I personally don't think peace can come from the people who created the battleground in the first place. They don't want peace, they just want to be a hero. Saving people who don't need to be saved is easy when you sacrifice all the people who actually need saving. There's a quote about the Vietnam War I found that hit eerily home. Don't ever let anybody tell you war is something beautiful or heroic. When people say war is hell, war is hell. Cowards start wars and the brave fight them. What if I don't have the energy to be brave? There are not enough hours in the day to stand in line and testify against every anti-trans bill in America. Being trans doesn't get easier because suddenly people become more accepting. Being trans gets easier because we learn to deal with their lack of acceptance. The being trans part gets easier. The being hated part never does. Be yourself, I say on a stage, but not in a break room surrounded by coworkers talking politics. Is a paycheck worth my pride? One look at my balance as I hold my tongue. Be confident. As I got a closet full of clothes I could never wear in public, some of the looks given to a man dressed flamboyantly, I might as well be naked. Be safe is one you don't often hear among those affirming phrases. I think it sends a chill down some people's spine. It reeks the truth, a painful realization. Hatred can exist anywhere. You just have to believe it's not everywhere. Keep hope that eventually good people take no win the reins. I feel like the first new blade of grass growing on a war-torn battlefield. Dead, shriveled, burnt brethren scattered around me. Is the grass still green where Kansas was bleeding? I've never been to Pennsylvania. Does the earth remember Gettysburg as bloody as history books do? Whatever became of the bricks that were thrown through the windows of Stonewall Inn? If not for the memorials, battlefields would just look like land. Does that mean I'll eventually heal? Stop throwing myself into the war, eyes honed in on only this battle? A battle of rights eventually becomes a war of who's human, and when they use your own bleeding to paint you as the villain, mentally ill, perverted, self-mutilating, God-playing, LGB, no TQ+, it's easy to drown. Yeah, they're overused insults and buzzwords, but they can seep into even the strongest around. It's exhausting. That's why those safe spaces and welcoming places are so important. Bridges of love and acceptance when hatred crosses a line. It's crazy how you can fight alongside a group and still feel singled out, unwanted. I need to remember that those against me aren't after Jules Quarrel, the singular person who fits a discriminated category. They're after all the people they hate calling people, the gays, the transgenders, and we, the gay people and the transgender people, will be there to correct them. They hate calling. Thank you.
Thank you, Jules. Now let's bring up our next finalist, Victoria Bogatz. Victoria is a sophomore at Bellevue East High School. In her free time, she enjoys running, reading, playing the piano, and is most especially writing. Bogatz's poetry explores the priceless value of words, the beauty of living and loving, and the necessity of storytelling. Her work has been published in Best Nebraska Teen Writing 2022 and the 2021 Bow Seat Yearbook, among others. Her poem, A Bit of Solace, was also set to music as part of the Opera Omaha Poetry and Music Project. As well as writing, Bogatz is also passionate about changing the world through environmental activism and education. Everyone, please give it up for Victoria.
Hi everyone, I'm Victoria. I am so honored to be here. I'm going to be reading a couple of poems. The first one is called A Bit of Solace. It was just mentioned in my bio. It was actually turned into a song, which was really cool. A Bit of Solace. The night is dark and deep, and it's been far too long. The stars are gone. What else to do but drive quietly along empty roads, the fields swaying slightly, almost seeming to glow. I stare as if some lost hope, some tangible peace is hiding in the goldenrods. Alone with my thoughts, I am no longer lost, just a wanderer, gravel crunching below my tires. A bird whistles from afar, and that's when I feel it. Maybe not joy, but a bit of solace, and that's enough. This next poem is called The Writer. You hold your heart in your hands as if vulnerability will break you. But I like to throw caution to the wind, to curse at tables laid with fine china and breathe, I love you, across silk pillows. I laugh to fill silence, but you let the dead air sit, as if you are learning something from the hollowness between noise. You twist small words into poetry. Delicate, you whisper, your auburn hair shining in the lamplight. Disastrous, dichotomy, and I am left tongue-tied like when our lips collide, because even then I feel the imprint of your poetry. I drink in your freckled cheeks and sparkling eyes. I let this silence rise and I do not laugh, because I am learning something now. I drink in you teach me to breathe. I teach you to live, to take a chance, to dance even when your heels are killing you and everyone is watching. We fit, like a puzzle or maybe a poem, because somehow you have turned me into the writer. This poem is called Reaching. You are failing, she says. You are falling short of who I know you can become. Her eyes are shining and her wrinkled hands are soft as she kneads dough atop the granite counter. I see a hopeful future for you, but only if you reach for it. I tap my pencil against the side of my math textbook. Don't you see? I am reaching. I am always reaching. For the answer key, for a snack, for my little sister's toys, for simply the energy to make it through the day. She is silent, the bristles of her kitchen brush swiftly dripping olive oil onto the dough. You are working, yes. She flicks the excess oil into the sink and it arcs through the hot, sunny kitchen. But are you dreaming? Reaching is not just working, but having a dream to work for. My pencil quickly scratches in the answer for 2 pi to the power of 7. I dream. I dreamt last night that my alarm was warning me of a house fire. That is not what I mean, she replies, and I know, but I do not know how to answer her. I do not know how to make my mouth form the words that will please my grandma's expectations, which are endless and stifling and determinedly hopeful. I do not know how to admit that the only dream I have dreamed in a long time is the one with the alarm. I do not know how to admit that I can reach with my arms, but not quite with my soul, and perhaps my future is as unknown as the value of X. The bread smells good, I finally say. Thank you, chérie. She slides it onto a blackened cooking sheet. I love you, you know. My pencil pauses, and this, at least, is something I have the words for. I love you too. This is my last poem. It's called Why I Write. I write because I can. Because as early as 2 years old, I rocked back and forth in a little white chair, flipping through the pages of picture books. I learned the twisting labyrinth that is the English language and found a way to explain and express all the thoughts whirling around my mind. Then I picked out a blue notebook at back-to-school shopping, and when I was bored, I scratched out stories in No. 2 pencil, like those 19 pages I called a novel, or that short story riddled with spelling errors and doodles in the margins, because my words still didn't quite capture the characters in my mind. The hands I was blessed with picked up a pen and later flew across the keyboard. I pushed myself to string words together to evoke a feeling or tell a story. I learned that writing is never effortless, but it is always limitless. To quote John F. Kennedy, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And I may not be going to the moon, but I've learned that words let me shoot for the stars. And words are life. I write because I live. I see poetry everywhere. In the skyscrapers, silver and glass slicing through the summer sky. In the bushy green pines, lined with shimmering snow. In the water, white rapids moving faster than this beautiful, confusing brain of mine. I see prose in Strangers on the Street, drama at school, a twist of fate in last night's dream. I overhear conversations and the quotation marks form in my head. It doesn't stop at stories because a million thoughts are always racing through my brain. I'd escape my mind, but the sky's not wide enough. The words are. I press pencil to paper, frantic as my brain moves faster than my looping cursive. I have a lot to say about life and love and justice and hope and peace and drama and more, and the pages are limitless. In the midnight blue, my thoughts spiral into stanzas. In the golden afternoon, my ideas spill into stories. Writing is the only thrill I seek. I write like the wind. I write like I'll die if I don't, and truth be told, I probably would. Not writing would be unimaginable, more distantly impossible than the edges of the universe. If I don't write, what would I do with this precious thing we call time? How would I cope with this tragic miracle we call life? How would I set my thoughts free? Writing is my dream. Even if my words never change the world, never make me famous, I want my writing to mean something, to contain some bundled up truth. I want one tired soul to stumble across my words and find solace in them and realize that we humans are not so different after all. I, too, have lived. I am a writer at heart, a dreamer in the dark, a storyteller from head to toe. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your poems with us, Victoria. Next, I would like to introduce you to Miranda Davis. Miranda is a senior at Norris High School in Firth, Nebraska. Her passions for poetry, nature, and music drive her to create a better world for herself and others through words. Davis's poetry has been published in multiple local anthologies, and her public performances of slam poetry have received first-place rankings at Wayne State College and the Lark Song Writers' Place. She's also been a member of the National Speech and Debate Association since 2021 and placed in the top 100 in the nation for poetry in 2022. In her free time, Davis enjoys dancing, gardening, and reading. Please welcome Miranda Davis to the mic.
Hello, I'm Miranda Davis, and I will be reading 2 poems tonight. This first one is called Homegrown. I grew up in a house that threatened to crack against my feet, with every hushed tiptoe in the middle of the night and every stomp to my room after yet another fight. I carefully crept with the burning rage inside, a flame-filled desire to burn it all down. I don't know when it started or even quite why. All I know is I was a child and my first steps were on eggshells. I grew up in a house with walls that watched me more carefully than my father ever did. The grain and the hardwood floors knew my favorite songs better because they were the ones that held me when I danced and picked me up when I cried. The windows let out more than he ever did, holding whispered words and fearful hopes inside rather than open the shutters and absorb the effervescent rays of mid-morning light. I grew up in a house with dirty dishes in the sink because it's better to abandon and forget than clean up the messes that corrode and rot and eat away at every starving soul under that roof. I grew up in a house where home-cooked meals and sit-down dinners had expiration dates, where isolation was the preferred method of entertainment, a house where clearance aisle candles and day-old baked goods masked the smell of hidden liquor and nightmares. I am angry because of that house, because my father would come home at unspeakable hours, wrinkled from work, and slam the door so hard the porch would shiver, because his furrowed brow and rancid breath repeats itself in my Punnett square and opens the curtains on my own torn-up body. I can hold a grudge like the hand he never gave me to cross the street, and I will never love a man unless he is angry, because that is my father. And like father, like daughter, I will only ever be angry myself. It was as though the house longed for a natural disaster louder than the one upon that foundation. And I think to myself, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to see the breakdown, did it even matter? I am my father's daughter, and I always have been, but I put in the work to not be anything like him. I don't clench my fist to hide my rage. Instead, I bite my tongue just like he taught. I feel I have grown away from that house until I spend time with that ashtray of a man. Suddenly, I wither away into that scared, angry little girl that he always made me out to be. Because we bleed the same blood of anger and regret. I saw my father cry. He begged for forgiveness like I was the church he refuses to go back to. Confessing his sins, he spoke to me like it was his last time, and I don't know if I forgive him. If a man dies by the same substance he turns to for comfort, what was it all for? If a tree falls the way it leans, then will I fall the same way he did? And years from now, when I sit at a table with a man whom I call my own, I hope regret does not slip between us. I hope it does not burn like acid on my tongue, and I hope I do not live with an extension of my father and every version of him. And instead, I live in a house that is finally a home. Thank you. The second poem is called How to Write a Poem. Step 1, feel. Let yourself feel the brokenness inside and the toe-curling, blood-curdling anger and the pulsating ache behind your solar plexus and the fire that burns in your eyelashes every time someone raises their voice or you step outside or breathe, or that feeling of him walking away, never knowing if or when he'd turn back. He didn't. That experience of hoping something would change, waiting for a transformation, or wishing for the chance to go back in time and maybe be better, maybe be different, whatever would change his mind, if anything could. Step 2, break. Allow your body to fold in on itself and eat away at the protective walls around your heart that have kept you safe all these years, but you're not safe anymore. Give in to the pain that echoes through your veins like a whisper of his name. Collapse and shatter and choke on the hazy air he left in his wake because he was smoke. You could feel him, smell him, taste him, but he was barely there, only in sense, never in presence. But you always knew when he was there, flames were coming. Step 3, sit. Sit in the silence or in the noise or somewhere in between. Sit somewhere familiar or somewhere new or somewhere you remember. When you sit with the brokenness and the ache and the anger, it comes together in a way that has no order but still makes sense, at least to you, and the shell of what you once were. And now I'm here, looking at where he was standing and the ashes left in his wake, thinking about how this morning I had something to still call my own, and now I'm empty again. And maybe that's how this was supposed to be. Maybe he was never mine and I was never his. We just crossed paths and lingered for far too long. And now I can't help but wonder if it was him or I who stayed too long. Step 4, write. Let it out and let it in and let go. Let out the smoldering flames that lick at your soul and the raging waterfalls that have built up behind your irises. Let out the words that came from the sitting, that came from the breaking, that came from the feeling, that came from the way he walked out that door without another thought. And let it in. Let in the light and the air and the peace and the way rain smells at dusk and the steam tendrils coming out of a warm cup of coffee and the fur on a cat's nose and hope and comfort and love and breathe and let go. Let go of the anger that came from him not turning back, the hate from when the hand lingered in the parking lot for a little too long, the fear that came from the thunder because it reminded you of his voice, the ache of his absence and the dread of his presence. And you will find a poem. And maybe, just maybe, you will also find a second chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Miranda. All right, folks, we're going to move on to our next finalist, who is Stephanie Oriana Gomez. Stephanie is a sophomore from Benson High School, born and raised in El Salvador, and in less than 2 years living in the United States and learning the language in the same period of time. She has had big and small achievements. Multiple experiences of her life and her devotion to the Catholic faith inspire her poetry until today. She finds her safe place in writing, animals, nature, and art, but also the intensity of her feelings. Her poetry focuses on social justice, cultural empowerment, and romance, and each of her poems hides references to her life. Oriana Gomez has been a winner of second places in the MLK Living the Dream competition 2 consecutive years in poetry categories. She was also one of 13 young poets selected by Opera Omaha to make her poetry into a song, which was also performed. In her free time, she enjoys and dedicates time to creative writing, painting, music, and spending quality time with her family. Please give it up for Stephanie.
Hello, this is such an honor for me to be here. I'll be reading a couple of my poems. The first one is called Where the Stars Were Born. Where I had my first glimpse of life, where I cried, smiled, and suffered. Rough hands, able to thrive. A sky painted with hopes uncovered. A dangerous road that hurt my feet. El alimento was put on my table with effort. My people refuse to hear the word defeat. They wake up every morning walking by the merciful God. My skin stained with labor. Dos ojos that have seen the days go by. Words that never needed a translator. A beating heart always ready to say goodbye. The stars were born the same night as me. Past that impulse because we never give up. We cross forests, rivers, and seas. Hay más para descubrir before you dare to judge. Grab my hand. I have been through many things. My blood is red. It is like yours. And our voices are the same when we sing. This world was made for all of us. Escúchame. It's the 21st century. There are many voices raised, but somehow we are still excluded. Think about the future, don't just keep her in the memory. Perdón si sueno fuera de lugar, but my people haven't concluded. Un corazón latiente, pero diferentes banderas. Somos los mismos. Al final del día, nuestras vidas son iguales. Si mi nacionalidad es una desventaja, ¿qué hago con esta alma extranjera? ¿Será que estamos destinados a repetir tantos males? Podrás comprar mi sudor y las llagas en mis manos, pero mi corazón es libre, en un mundo donde no necesito huir. Vivo la vida, tan humilde como muchos de mis hermanos. Ya no hay armas que me puedan perseguir. Thank you. My next poem is called What Is It Like to Be in Love? What is it like to be in love, my heart, when all I try is to find you in my mind? I hate the way you just avoid my sight. You're just too rough to love someone so blind. What people describe as a piece of art is not hate, but those ridiculous actions. It's not pain, but those protective arms. Love is my heart releasing the locked up passion. Probably you still don't understand, my love, that you're not what I really deserve, because you're not able to bring me joy, because you do not worth another verse. You must learn what love is all about a beautiful feeling with no doubts. This next poem is called Between Days and Nights. There's a reason for the pain inside of me, the walls of my past with lack of sense. The blurry sky in my memory will let me live, and walk on those streets will be a bless. My nights won't look dark anymore. My mind will recognize my own thoughts. Finally, I'll be different than before. I will be free to step those roads. The mornings will bring happiness, an empty heart melted with joy of freedom. There are people that will admire my madness, but that's just what with the years became wisdom. Long ago, look at you was painfully vicious, but oh, precious dawn, I found a dream in Jesus, and through the fade, the pain has gone. This next poem is called The Years I Waited for You. I didn't find arms as warm as yours. My heart never felt the same after you left, because I made you my one and only truth. You, the first person I confessed. I still remember your favorite singer, the reason why you prefer your middle name. Every I miss you was enough to make me feel like a winner. I should have known that what we had was a temporary game. Were you words always so bitter? Of the ones I said, all I feel is shame. My departure is just an excuse. I was there during the sunny and rainy days, but when I needed you, from you, I had no news. I couldn't find you within my haze. For you, I'm living the best life. If only you knew that my entire life was you. A tempestuous storm in my heart when you left me behind. I loved you even after everything you put me through. A ruthless liar for always hid, and your thoughts about me were few. I hope she holds you tight like I never could. Maybe she will be able to understand you like I did. My mind will always keep those moments of our childhood. And if one day you return, I hope I would move on. My last poem for tonight is called Raíces. Oh, mis amadas raíces, those that build the person I am today. De niños no éramos más que aprendices. And when I was afraid, you drew away. My heart beats in two languages. Uno lo aprendí y con el otro viví. Of my childhood, the witness you were. Pero con ambos poemas te escribí. Mañana intentaré no extrañarte. I will dedicate my life to honor thee. Porque estando lejos de ti, aprendí a amarte. Because I had to leave you to travel overseas. Yo nunca te olvidaré, en mi piel estarás. Your lessons go with me everywhere. Hasta en mi lecho de muerte seguirás. And with the future, your wisdom I will share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Before we move into our last poet, we have a required intermission because some things are about to start happening behind that wall. They could be loud. So we're going to make sure we take a quick break, so I want to make sure you know a few things. First, if you need to go to the restrooms, the ladies' room is straight down this hall and over to your right. Men's room is up the top of the stairs and to your right if you need that bathroom. Also, if you'd like to buy a beverage or a snack, the bar is open downstairs and you can use that to make sure you get yourself some refreshments during the break. We're going to take a slight 20-minute intermission because it's going to be kind of busy. I suggest if you're going to use the restroom, get there first. Run, run, run. And we'll announce when it's about time to come back. Enjoy yourselves. Thank you so much for being part of this evening, and I'll see you in a little bit.
said that, but I said it, and we're moving on. Introducing our final finalist for the evening, Aiden Whalen. Aiden Whalen is a senior at Omaha Central High School. Poet, activist, and staunch cat lover, Aiden utilizes his poetry to convey the aspects of American youthfulness and the many intricacies involved in being a young person. Aiden volunteers with Omaha Teen Council as a peer educator, as well as advocates for youth as a student organizer. In his free time, he loves to hang out with his cats, Loki and Lola, and he hopes that others will pet their furry friends for him. Let's welcome Aiden Whalen to the microphone.
Hello. Thank you. Very excited to be here. I have 2 poems for you all. So we'll just jump into it. This first poem is titled Ashley. Dear Ashley, I'm graduating in 4 months. I wish I could say that we are graduating, but I know that your name will never be announced. I know that no matter how hard I squeeze my eyes at night, I'll never see your face age behind my eyelids. My palms will sweat because your hands should be feeling them, and yet I have walked 7 years alone. I remember how you wanted to be the first female president, how you wanted to be a lawyer and a programmer and a chef. You would have been great at all of them too. I remember how you wore skirts that hung past your ankles, nude eyeshadow and feather dangly earrings decorated the face of someone who told the camp director boys when she asked if you had any allergies. I remember your ballet recitals, the lipstick you applied every minute because it made you feel grown up. You could see it on your teeth. I never got the chance to tell you that. You joked about how your initials were AAW like the root beer company. Mine are the same. It was one of the few things we had in common. You're gone. I try to remember why I pushed you away in the first place, why we could not coexist throughout our lives. I would like to say it's because I needed to find myself. I needed to grow up unbounded to the people or things that reminded me of who I was. I would like to say that I thought it through, but I didn't. It was shame more than anything. Tides pulled me out to sea, waves crashing on my back, and I blamed you because who else could I point at other than myself? You're gone, and I miss you. Not because I regret my own maturity, but I regret never being able to see yours. I could have used your optimism every year after you left me, or rather, I ran from you. I could have used your hugs because you still liked them once I grew out of it. I could have used your colorful clothes because that's all you wore when I threw everything away for black and gray and dark brown. I could have used your love for reading because I haven't finished a book outside of school in over 4 years. I could have used you. You'll never grow past 11, and you did nothing to deserve that. Sometimes I think that other people miss you too. I know my parents miss your face, even if we won't talk about it. Your teachers won't acknowledge me unless I talk about you. Even people who did not know you tell me that I should bring you back, but you can't revive those that have been gone for years, and it seems like I'm the only one that understands that. It seems like I'm the only one who grieves who you were when you died and not what you could have been if I took your place instead. It seems like your image is burned onto my flesh in every visible area so that no amount of clothing, of scrubbing the markings from your sticky hands can rid me of your legacy, can dissolve the remnants of the past, and here I am again. Grief is a cycle, and I always go back to anger. No matter how many years pass, how much growth I do, I will back down from acceptance. I will move out of the home we used to share in the state that wants you back so bad, and I will keep running because I know how much you hated exercise. I will scream my lungs out in a dorm hundreds of miles away because you are buried in an unmarked grave deep in invisible crevices, and I will never be able to visit again, and again, here I am. I'm not angry at you. The only acceptance I have made is that you were a child. You did not choose for my happiness to be Sisyphus, and so I will keep pushing. I remember the I Love Candy shirt you wore in 4th grade. I'm sure it's in my closet somewhere. I wonder if it still fits. Thank you. I'm gonna tilt this down. I feel a little short. Stand on my tiptoes. Okay. Second and final poem is titled Midas. Midas, I want to be gold. I want to feel your touch on my hands, my shoulder, my face. I want to feel my body tense up as my blood becomes that of God's. My skin becomes gold leaf, my bones become bricks of precious metal. Midas, I want to be precious. Value to the point that Gollum says, my Aiden, I crave that feeling of being valuable, of being seen as beautiful and priceless, but I guess even gold has a price tag, so maybe I don't want to be gold. Well, Midas, I don't want to be alone. You're lonely too. I assume no one can get close to you, Midas. No one can get close to me either. You're afraid to hurt others, so am I. But while your touch turns people into permanence, mine makes people vanish. My bitterness is transported into their veins. It fuels their muscles enough to carry themselves out of my life. I have that talent, Midas. You can call me a magician for my ability to make people disappear, and while that choice of words makes it sound like I murdered them, I didn't. I only killed the part of them that once cared for me. Midas, do you care for me? I know it's a dumb question. How can a bitter and greedy king care for something that gives him nothing? I'm sorry, I can't give you anything, Midas. I gave away my power, my kindness, my personhood, my well-being to people I should have known would never return them, to people I gave my all to and they still wanted more. Midas, I'm hoping your loneliness makes me more desirable. I'm already a shell of who I once was, a statue. I'll listen to you. I don't talk back. I'm really not that much different than the gold figures that decorate your halls, except I breathe, Midas. I listen willingly, I eat and sleep. I'm a person. Can't you see that? I'm a person. I have feelings, I have wants and desires, I have needs and wishes and hopes, aspirations, limits, boundaries, emotions. I have a family, friends, a life, past, future. Midas, does me being myself make me less desirable? I can't see what I'm doing wrong, so maybe you can tell me, is it my wants and desires, my needs and wishes, hopes, aspirations, family, friends, a life, past, future? Midas, I can be all you want and more if you just give me a chance. Tell me who you want me to be, and I'll be that. I'm perfect. I'll be perfect just for you. Midas! Why won't you talk to me? I've given you a chance to speak, and you won't take it. It's response I crave, Midas, good or bad. Just talk to me, look at me, embrace me, consume me for all I care. Remove me from all physical senses. Transport me to a plane of existence where I feel no pain, no pleasure, no anger, nothing, nothing. Midas, make me nothing. Forget gold, a statue, valuable, desirable. It was all talk, Midas. I do that a lot. You notice I talk and I talk and I talk with nothing behind my words, nothing, Midas. I'm only going to ask you for one thing more. This time it means something. Become me, touch me, and make me disappear. Thank you.
Thank you, Aiden. All right, I am going to be talking a little bit about the year 2023-2024 for the Youth Poet Laureate program. Before we bring out our state's current Youth Poet Laureate to the stage, we would like to show you what the last year has been like for our team. And we've had the enormous privilege of working with Aaliyah American Horse and our mentors, Emily Anderson, a teaching artist with the Nebraska Writers Collective, and Nancy Petito, now Senior Director of Programs at Civic Nebraska. When we met Aaliyah last spring, her vision was shockingly clear. She was determined to hold the position of Nebraska's Youth Poet Laureate alongside the indigenous communities in our state. She was never one, but one of many, rooted in values like community, place, and family. Aaliyah's work continued to center the stories of missing and murdered indigenous women, advocating for their stories, their faces, and their names to appear in all the vital places where we put white women's names, stories, and faces when they go missing. She has always demanded equity in Native American women's absence. Working with Emily and Nancy has helped Aaliyah sharpen her poetic skills and hone the mission, vision, and values she held for this position, especially her civic engagement project. In Emily, she has found humor, doubled her joy, and learned a better sense of how poetry can exist on the page. In Nancy, she has found empathetic leadership, kind and clear communication, and elevated expectations. When we expect more from each other, when we ask each other to level up, that is where growth happens, and Aaliyah has most certainly grown. She is bolder, braver, and more resilient than she was a year ago, tackling hard things and difficult conversations with grace, assurance, presenting her poetry for audiences of all demographics and sizes, and assembling a chapbook of her creative work in just a few short months, all while carrying her newest title of Midwest Youth Poet Laureate. Aaliyah, we are very proud of you, and prouder still to know you. In Aaliyah's own words, she explains her civic engagement project during her tenure as Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate. The Sister Project, in partnership with Civic Nebraska and the Nebraska Writers Collective, was designed to raise awareness for the missing and murdered Indigenous women movement. High school students were invited to submit call to action poetry and artwork that represents the cause and will be judged by a board of Indigenous artists and allies. Winners will have their pieces displayed at the Nebraska State Capitol on April 5th and be provided prizes as well as attend a ceremony honoring their work and the cause. This project involved traveling to different high schools, including Gordon Rushville, Red Cloud Indian School, Lincoln High School, and Lincoln Southeast High School, and talking to students and Indigenous groups about the importance of this project and how their voices matter. My ultimate goal with this project is to bring the MMIW movement to lawmakers and public attention, as I believe there is not nearly enough representation. In the end, this generation of youth will lead tomorrow, and this project provides them an opportunity to use their creative outlet for good. And now we're going to play a little bit of a video that talks about her time.
Aaliyah is one of the coolest people I've ever met.
Top two, and that's only because I really love my partner.
Oh, I forgot about my partner.
No, this isn't my space. We don't have to go back.
Cut that out. He won't watch it. It's fine.
I am most proud of just making it and doing something with my life. What I'm most proud of through my poetry is turning all of my negative and sad poems into more healing poems, focus on a better future than a worse past.
There is a connection between people who read poetry and their overall capacity for like sympathy, empathy, kindness, and intelligence. So that's, I mean, if you want to be a nicer, smarter person, go volunteer in your community and read some poems, you know?
Making my own art throughout all my life. I've always gotten support from like my family and friends, but being able to really get that community support and knowing that I can rely on my community to always be there for me and meeting all these amazing people, it's truly amazing. I've had so many people come to me with their own poetry and their own artwork about things that they are passionate about, which is absolutely amazing.
You know, I think in a lot of places and spaces we say that we need to listen to our youth and youth have a voice. The next generation is the generation that, you know, we need to be thinking about. But do we actually do that? Do we actually ask them questions and give them the opportunity to share what they're doing and what matters to them? And so, like, here is a way to do that and to do it really, really well.
Raising awareness for the issues that I feel strongly about and at-risk Native American communities has brought me so much closer to my culture and my community. I've just gone on this like amazing healing journey just through this opportunity.
What's the question?
Passionate and brilliant and curious and driven.
Those are good. I love those. Those are also true, yeah.
I also feel pressure being in a room of, you know, poets and writers, and so, you know,
We're just nerds who read books, yeah.
Never stop believing, because you never know. Because one day you'll wake up and your face is all over the news. And people will know you and people will come up to you in public, and it's an absolute wild ride, but it's absolutely worth it, and it has been the most amazing experience in my entire life.
That was so much fun to watch. In her own words, we'd like to introduce to you, for the last time, Aaliyah American Horse, our 2023-2024 Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate. Before I bring you up here, Aaliyah, I'm going to read your bio. Born in Cedar City, Utah, and raised in small-town Gordon, Nebraska, Aaliyah is a community-based artist who strives for the betterment of the future. Named the Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate in 2024, Aaliyah is an actress, artist, singer, writer, and advocate for Indigenous people everywhere, highlighting causes such as the missing and murdered Indigenous women movement. Aaliyah graduated from Gordon Rushville High School in 2023 and plans to attend college this fall to earn her teaching degree in hopes of continuing to inspire the next generation. Aaliyah is a proud Indigenous woman from the Ogallala Lakota Sioux tribe and dedicates her success to her family, tribe, and community. Please put your hands together one last time for the illustrious Aaliyah American Horse.
Thank you. It is such an honor to be here and up here. I didn't see the video before then, so that was kind of emotional. But before I read my poem, I just want to say that being the Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate has been such a blessing. And from the bottom of my heart, I wish the best of luck to all the finalists tonight. This is called Contemporary Warriors. I come from survivors. A family tree with rotted roots and broken branches, voices banging on the wood from the inside, begging to be heard. We went from surviving off what Mother Earth, Unchi Maka, had offered, to living off whatever the newest and more corrupt politician wanted to give us, who still expected us to drop to our knees in gratitude, while we are still living the same lives we did 100 years ago. Our women being taken, raped, murdered, names unknown, but stories said just to instill fear. An endless fight to feed our families and provide a roof that won't fall at a storm called colonization. Tongues chopped and shoved down our throats to stop us from speaking Indigenous truth. The youth? Just a piece of clay carved for this new world mold, taught in schools to do this thing in this way, be this thing in this way, say this thing in this way, be this person who you are not meant to be, leave the stitches of your life, just a memory. I was working as a waitress when an old cowboy came in. He complimented my beaded earrings, and we talked for nearly 2 hours about my culture, my family, the wars, what it means to be Native, and who I want to become. He said something that stood out to me. He noticed how on the reservation you'll find car frames with every part, piece, and bolt stripped from it. He compared it to the hundreds of years ago where you would find buffalo bones, tatanka, with every bit of meat, piece, and skin stripped from it. See, my people, we have not changed, but grown. The late generation charging into battle, leaving only the vision of a road we now have to walk upon. It's our job to tear down the overgrown weeds that block our view of the war, barricades put in place by ruling fists and residential schools. We are today's warriors. Our weapons are carved by our voice, fueled by a rage that was born in my mother and her mother and all of the mothers before her. I want to find the hands who are responsible for the suffering of my nation, to force them to watch as we tear down what they have built. Burn the walls carried on our parents' backs, whose Replace any essence of hate that spills out of the mouths at the top of this nation. Their only issue ever being that their stack of money was too large for their house. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaliyah. It was, 2 years ago now when I first met her at Gordon High School, and it's been amazing to watch her transition over the last year in this program. I am grateful for the time that we have spent with you, and I'm also grateful for a lot of other people. So now's the time you get to listen to us really affirm all the people who make this process possible. First, I'd like to say thank you to our interns. Thank you to our interns, Victoria and Lucy from University of Nebraska at Lincoln. They ensured that each judge had access to instructions to help to navigate this year's Youth Poet Laureate process. It helped me develop a better access points for folks who might be visually impaired and or hard of hearing with shareable audio files and matching transcripts. Thank you both for your dependable hearts and commitment to this work.
I don't know why I keep entering from the wings like that. I'm just gonna stay here next time. It's very dramatic of me. I would also like to thank the sponsors. Thank you to Todd Simon and Omaha Steaks for their support of the Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate Program as this year's presenting sponsor. The Simon family has a long-standing tradition of championing the arts in Omaha, and we are so thankful that they have chosen to extend this tradition to our program. Thank you to Ryan Martin and the entire team at Dundee Bank for their continued sponsorship of this program. They believed in this program before it fully existed in the world, and we thank them for their incredible vision and support of nonprofits across our state.
We want to thank our media team. EJ is magic personified and the powerhouse behind tonight's live stream. She was also responsible for filming and editing Aaliyah's American Horses video submission as part of her National Youth Poet Laureate application this spring. Jake Vest and Vest Visuals accepted a cold call from Gina Trinisi and didn't bat an eyelash when she explained the program and what it means to Nebraskans. He listened, envisioned, and is completing a stunning visual project of tonight's event. The illustrious Anna Reed is our photographer for the evening. We thank her for her incredible artistic eye and her willingness to see and capture our students exactly as they are.
We would like to thank our judges. Thank you to Artie Mack, Rachel Olson, the Nebraska State poet Matt Mason, Victory Clafter, Wendy Jones, Sharmila Sayed, and Brad Maudlin. Each of our judges is an established civic and or creative leader. They are fixtures in their community, whether they live, work, or write in Nebraska or beyond. It's important for us to remember that these judges aren't just leaders and creatives, they're partners. Parents, professors, nonprofit workers, activists, competitive poets, and so much more. They gave the gift of their time to this program, which is valuable and could have been given to many other worthy causes. We thank them for their energy, their readership, and their sweet support.
Our community partners, Nebraskans for the Arts, the Nebraska Writing Project, Elevate Omaha, World Speaks, the Nebraska Community Foundation, and the Nebraska Commission on Indian Affairs. Our community partners are responsible for helping spread the word about this program via social media and direct conversations with young people their organizations serve. They help us recruit talent to the Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate program and ensure young people who might not otherwise see themselves in this work are encouraged to submit their stories. We'd like to give a special shout out to Lea Whitney Chavez and Arturo Esteves Gonzalez from World Speaks. Their translators helped us expand our application instructions to Spanish, Karen, Vietnamese, Arabic, American Sign Language, and French, so that multilingual writers have access to this opportunity and can feel confident in submitting poetry in their heart's language. Lea and Arturo, we are grateful for you.
We would also like to thank the venue. We'd like to thank the Holland Center for hosting us in the FNBO lobby tonight. The Omaha Performing Arts and Holland staff have been generous with their time and dedication to getting even the smallest details right. We want to give a special thanks to Emily Cox for answering all of our questions, completing walkthroughs, and taking such good care of us in the planning and execution of this event. You guys thought we were going to switch places again. Not yet. To all of the YPL applicants, thank you for seeing yourselves in this program and trusting us with your work. We are so proud of you. The collective light you brought to this project shines statewide. To Emily Anderson, the creative mentor, and Nancy Petito, the civic mentor, leadership can be incredibly lonely. Your guidance over this last year meant that Aaliyah didn't have to walk this path by herself. You did the work of pouring a strong, stable, trusted foundation for Aaliyah in a time of great transitions. Over the last year, Aaliyah graduated high school, relocated, and began a career in behavioral mental health, all while navigating her position as a youth leader and creative in Nebraska. We appreciate the ways you showed Aaliyah consistency in your support, in your care, and in your unshakable belief in all she is and all she can become. Thank you.
Thank you to Aaliyah American Horse, our third Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate and our first ever Midwest Youth Poet Laureate, our poetic beacon and light on her way to compete for the National Youth Poet Laureate title in just 14 short days. We don't have, yes. We don't have a lot left to say, left that hasn't already been said about you, to you or about you, so I'm going to keep this brief. Thank you for sharing your words and your family and your good humor and your hopes with us. Thank you for the hard days, the nervous days, and the excited days. Thank you for allowing us to read your poetry, discuss it, and press it into a book. Thank you for sharing your entire self, not just bits and pieces with us. It is an honor to see the kaleidoscope you are. The way that your light throws itself around every room you enter and renders people more beautiful than they were before they knew you. We wish you every success, every joy, and every good thing as you write your next chapter, and we'll be there clapping for you in DC.
At the Nebraska Writers Collective, we like to say that the points are not the point is a poetry. It's not about winning, but writing. These young people have transformed their memories, experiences, hopes, and fears into art. Many of us in this room are not brave enough or ready enough to do the work that these poets have done here tonight. Finalists, you are brave. You are ready. You dreamed a bigger future for yourself and imagined the stage, the community work, the crowds. Whether it's whispered or shouted, something in you said, I can do this. I can be the next Nebraska Youth Poet Laureate. That is the point.
All right, so I'd like to call our finalists up to this area. We covered up the camera so you won't get blinded by the pretty lights, so come on up. Hey, Leah, come help us out.